Jason B. Allen. I'm a 17-year educator currently teaching special education. And I get my information, my news, my latest updates around pop culture from Black, Educated, and Broke. And so I need you guys to make sure you connect to this because my students and we're connected.
Educated and Broke
is a weekly entertainment podcast
where we mix hip-hop,
headlines, and all things ATL
into the success of Black millennials
in the Black culture
in West Virginia, demanding that her kids and Black and brown kids were able to go to the grammar schools, right? So that's real old school because, you know, a grammar school, it's like, you know, all the grades in one building and you get the basics. And
that's what they teach arithmetic at.
Right, they had arithmetic, right? And, you know, they had reading and they had writing. And so that's how they learned. And so she was advocating in 1906 as a Sunday school teacher, right? That Black and brown children should be able to go to the grammar schools in West Virginia. So I come from a family of educators from higher ed to as far as pre-K. And that's how I got connected to doing this work.
Okay, just out of curiosity, you know, you talk about the, you know, the people in your life, the women being educators, grammar school. Were they just perhaps women of, you know, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority? You know, I'm just curious.
My baby sister is an AKA and studied social work.
Come on,
and
see?
My aunts are Deltas. My dear aunt that passed away, she's actually in the picture that's behind me. She was a professor of arts education, and she actually helped to start the Betty Shabazz Academy for girls. So, so yes, but we do have, my sister is representing for the AKAs in the family, but a lot of Deltas.
Okay, well, on Black, Educated, and Broke, right, we have Alpha Kappa Alpha. This is my also sorority sister, Neo Zana. We are Alpha Zeta from Langston University. Okay, just throwing it out there. But as far as yourself, okay, so the biggest thing that we know in regards to you having a legacy of education, clearly this is why you're so good at it and been doing it so long. We see now that you're actually running for office. Now you're running for an office for the Atlanta School Board. Is this going to be your first time running for office?
Yes, this will be my very first time running for office. I'm the only teacher that is on the ballot for the Atlanta Board of Education race, and it's extremely important. I've been in education. This is year 17 for me. And my students joke with me a lot because I'm so old school. I'm a 90s, you know, I grew up in the 90s. So they were like, you know, Mr. Allen, you started from the bottom and now you're here. That's very true. I started as a part-time contractor running the after-school program at then one of the worst schools in Atlanta Public Schools. And I've taught English language arts. I've been a parent liaison in the school, connecting parents and communities to the work. I've been a district administrator and a school administrator as well. I've also led a charter school board. I was on the board for Ivy Prep Academy, which is the first charter commission school for girls. It was actually founded by AKA Nina Gilbert. She's a brilliant woman who's been doing this work for a long time. And I had the honor to lead the school that she founded as the chair of the board. And that's what really showed me what can be possibly done in Atlanta Public Schools. And so that's a little bit of my track record in education and why I feel as if I'm bringing something different to the table.
Okay, now Mike B, he was hollering it out. He's running for seat number 9. Now, for someone like myself, who's not an Atlanta native, not a Georgia native, I'm from Dallas, Texas. What's up, Cowboys? And when they say seat number 9, like, what is that? And what would your duties include? What would you be responsible for?
That's an excellent question. So the City of Atlanta Board of Education is broken down into 6 districts that represent the various communities and areas of the city. So, you know, you have District 1, you have District 2. I grew up in District 2 in the heart of the city where the AUC is, you know, shout out to Mosley Park. And that's a big area. A lot of legacy residents, Washington Park, a lot of those areas are connected to District 2. You have District 3, which kind of moves a little bit further, you know, east of the city. Then you have District 4, 5, and 6. And so also to coordinate with the Atlanta City Council, there are 3 at-large seats for the school board, and each of the, there are 2 districts combined that make up the at-large seats. So for seat 9, the districts that are combined to make up seat 9 are districts 5 and 6, both districts that I've taught in.
That is okay. But I'm taking notes because this is so interesting to me. So seat 9 is composed of District 5 and District 6.
That's
Those
correct.
are school and what cities, areas that? Because I know that's where you taught at. So what areas is that?
So for those who like Outkast and
Hey!
listen to Outkast music, right? Not saying that I play Outkast for my students because it's kind of hard to get censored music, right? But the area that seat 9 consists of, it goes all the way from Bolton Road, all the way around to the South Atlanta area.
Okay.
Now, is seat 9 an open seat, or is somebody you trying to kick up out that seat?
Yes.
That's an excellent question. The incumbent is currently in the seat. He's been on the board for 8 years, and his name is also Jason. Now, thankfully, since my last name is Allen, I come first on the ballot. So there was
That's
a science
smart.
to that, thankfully. And I believe that will also help to work in my favor. But Jason Estevez has been on the board for 8 years. He's currently the incumbent who has, helped to lead the work of the board, which is why my high school, Frederick Douglass High School, has had almost 10 principals in the 8 years that he's been in this seat. And so, of course, any educator will tell you that when you have principals that leave in the middle of the year, it causes what? It causes that's the leader, right?
Yes.
So much
yes.
So it causes a lot of confusion. So you can do the math and kind of figure out 10 principals under this young man's watch as being a board member in the area that he represents. That's the other thing too, that Douglass is in, and the schools within the Douglass cluster are in the area that he represents. And so, yes, so to answer your question, I'm taking on the incumbent. And anything is possible. I think the people want change, and they want someone who can really come in and do what's necessary for our children.
All right, spoken like a true politician in the best way. Now, I do want to talk about, because I know you're also you call yourself an education activist and you're a blogger, and that's what Atlanta. Tell us a little bit about your Atlanta. That's your blog, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Atlanta. So actually, a little bit of history behind that. After President Obama left office, there was a huge investment from his education team in what education would look like moving forward after he left out of office. So how are we connecting with families, communities, activists, and also advocates for educational equity? And so Atlanta was birthed from the Education Post that was founded by Arnie Duncan and Peter Cunningham, who, have continued to help, lead us and give us best practices, how to address policy development, but also ways to really reimagine education. So we're not currently using, best practices, and this is very true to this day. We're using best practices from 1921. In some areas of the nation. And so Atlanta was birthed through that as an advocacy blog to lift the voices of parents, teachers in the Atlanta area. And I've been the longest standing blogger on there, becoming the director of the Atlanta Student Coalition, which was developed by myself as a teacher to bring student voices into the conversation. Because I started saying, well, it's good to hear from parents, right? It's good to hear from fellow teachers and administrators, retired teachers, board members, but we're doing this work to serve kids. So why don't we make a seat for them at the table? Yes. And it makes sense, right? So I've been doing that, and shout out to the Atlanta Student Coalition. They were intricate in helping flip the school board in Gwinnett. We got over 400 high school seniors who were eligible to vote. No one was touching them. No one was giving them information about voter education. And we did the research, and we became engaged, and we did what needed to be done to make sure that they got out to vote. And they encouraged those, 18 to 25-year-olds to get out to vote. And that's what happened in Gwinnett. So if Gwinnett can do it, then Atlanta surely can do it.
You better say that.
So you spoke about President Obama. He's famous for the yes,
I guess you'll go after Ron Meyer.
My bad, little sister.
Continue.
So I want to hear what you're gonna do different than the incumbent.
Well, The first thing that I want to definitely do different is improve our accountability measures. There is no way that we should have a principal that is being accused of from students and teachers and has been founded to do so sexually harass and offend female students and teachers in the school. And things like this happen because of the lack of accountability. And I learned the process of how board members play an intricate role in not just policy development, but accountability leading a charter school board. It was my role as the person that was the board chair and hired the executive director or leader of the school to ensure that they are doing the right thing, not just by students. And see, here's where a lot of issues in education happen. A lot of people are focused on, okay, the school board is supposed to make sure that there are better outcomes for students, but if they are not treating the teachers and the staff members right, then that's an equity problem. Because if you make me upset when I'm coming to work, you don't pay me an equitable wage, you think that I'm gonna show up and give 120%. Now, there are few like myself who would do it, but the masses of people aren't. And so that's one of the very first things that I would do from my experience is add to the board and help us look at how we're holding our superintendent accountable. And the caveat to that is being able to ask the right questions. So if this board has never been in the classroom, they've never served on any other type of board, they've never been connected in the community, they're not having conversations with retired educators, or they're connected with a university system. I'm currently getting my master's in special education. And so I know how they're training teachers. I know how they're building master teachers in the state of Georgia. If you don't have that know-how, then how do you really know how to keep and hold the superintendent accountable? So that's one of the very first things that I would do as a board member on a team of persons who I hope will want to see stronger accountability measures in Atlanta public schools as well.
Can I ask my question now, Ron?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay. So, Jason, you were mentioning your history and your correlation with the education system, as well as it running into the family, as well as being an Atlanta native. I was wondering, because of the passion that you're displaying as you're talking about everything and what you're trying to implement and what you're bringing awareness to, did you always see yourself being a teacher or running for the Board of Education? Or is this something that just kind of birthed into?
That is a great question. So I have to share this story. When I was in 5th grade at FL Stanton Elementary School, the funny thing is my 5th grade teacher is still teaching at that school in the same classroom in Atlanta Public Schools.
That does not surprise me.
I got involved in student government, and I challenged our school leaders. I said, listen, we always go on this trip to Six Flags, but when I have to walk to school, I see my neighbors and community members suffering. So I started a community cleanup day for those 5th graders getting ready for middle school. And ever since, they have continued that legacy, right? So that our students can be engaged with the community. And like my 5th grade teacher would tell you, I've been doing the work of community engagement and advocating for students since I was in 5th grade. And I started in education after graduating the University of West Georgia. My senators and I, we took on the summer camps in Carrollton, Georgia. I was the second African-American to become the SGA president. And we kicked up so much dust, the city was like, well, since you're addressing equity at the college, we want you guys to come and help us address it with the young people that we may not be serving the best. And so after that summer, and I know my dad is still mad at me to this day, but we gave up our grants and our scholarships to go to law school, and we became teachers. And I've been doing it for 17 years, and I don't regret it. I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't even look backwards.
Really?
I love it. I love it. So impactful, and so like you did it at a young age. Like it's like you already knew your calling. But I do want to kind of get into like the, when do we vote? Who can vote? All of the good stuff. Like we need to know who can do this.
So early voting starts on October the 12th. And here's what I'm telling my students, and we're actually working on this right now. We are visiting the Secretary of State's website. We have to make sure we're educating ourselves on the new policies that are in place, right? And what we have been seeing in the driver's license, division and, people getting their IDs, there is a lack of support for seniors. seniors in high school and our senior citizens. And so definitely, people who are listening into this amazing, podcast, make sure that you're getting connected with that now, because early voting is going to be around the corner again on October 12th. And then election day is on November 2nd.
Okay, and I'm assuming I know it's for seat 9, and again, I'm not from Georgia, so since I'm a part of Fulton County, I can vote, or do I have to be living in that district?
You have to live within the city of Atlanta, even though Atlanta is in Fulton County. And that's a good question, because a lot of people have asked me that. They're like, man, we need you out here. And I'm like, no, I'm in the city of Atlanta. So city of Atlanta residents are eligible to vote for the Atlanta Board of Education. And again, I'm encouraging everyone to vote for seat 9 at large.
All righty. Any last thoughts for Jason, guys, before we go ahead and let him wrap out?
Okay. I was trying to get my mic to unmute. Continue fighting the good fight, my brother. Good luck to you, and all the encouragement that I can offer, because education is something that is very what is the right word in Atlanta? Education is something in Atlanta. It is something not taken seriously. Don't want to say that. Taken for granted.
But
yes.
no, you're right. It's not taken seriously.
Taken for granted.
That's honest.
Yes. And we need people who are passionate, full of power, full of energy, and full of the desire to come in and make a difference. So I offer you the best of luck. No problem.
And you seem like you're a millennial. You're giving me millennial vibes. Did you grow up in the 90s? So you're a millennial, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was born in the 80s. I was born in the 80s. So yeah, I guess, I'm Gen.
No, you're a millennial, because I'm born in the 80s too. No.
Jason, you make the cut. Jason,
yeah, I made the cut.
He made the cut. He just don't act old as Run. But as far as journalists, you're really not supposed to endorse candidates. That's just the unwritten rule. So I won't do that here. But my support and my support and respect for you. You say final thoughts, because I didn't really have to ask any questions. I definitely wanted to get you on this platform to talk about the school board and talk about your running for this seat. But I just, I guess the question would be, how important is it? Like Randy said, Randy's not from Atlanta, and my co-hosts are not city of Atlanta residents, but it's important to know where you are and where you. Randy's not a city of Atlanta resident, but it's important to know exactly the small things to vote for, and not just, of course, our large elections, which we went through last year. But you being that native Atlantan, and I mean from the heart of the city, a graduate from Atlanta Public Schools, like knowing that, like how important is that to be able to connect with that? Because I think that's what, unfortunately, and I can only speak for Atlanta, we're missing that. We have so many people coming here who want to know more and learn more about this city, but yet we don't have the leaders who can connect with the city. So how important is that to be able to connect with your roots?
This is the reality. I was a teacher in Atlanta Public Schools when the cheating scandal hit. And, God rest my godmother and those seniors who really were advising us during this time. Like, if we don't do something different, this is going to be detrimental for our communities. And it was just that. Look at what we're seeing in the city of Atlanta right now with the inequities around affordable housing, public transportation. Gentrification is a reality that is happening, and it's by design pushing out a lot of our legacy residents and working class families. This impacts our school system that brings in, it takes up about 52% of our tax base. The other caveat is we know that Atlanta influences everything. So this is a major election, not just for the metro Atlanta area, but for those school districts that we work with and partner with in Tennessee, in Florida, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, in Alabama, in Louisiana, in Mississippi, that are looking to Atlanta specifically on, well, how are we going to reshape behavior, attendance, and discipline policies? How are we going to build better relationships with charter schools, but also have a balance of traditional schools that have innovative programs and also flexibility to really reach every child? And so this is very important, because what most people will look at and say, if we have another downfall with the school system in the city of Atlanta, those middle-class families are not going to be able to afford to stay within the city, because here's the reality. If schools fail, you pay double, and we're already paying for enough failing schools. So we need to make sure that we are reshaping education. It's an important factor in this race, and a lot of people are focused on it because everyone is thinking about the mayoral race and the city council. But also remember this, a lot of the property in the city of Atlanta is managed by the school board that oversees the schools in our city. So I'll end it at that, on how detrimentally important this school board election is.
One last question.
Ron.
What's your plan for COVID? Because these people sick of you sending their children back home after they send them to y'all.
No, that's a good question. So having lost a student in the pandemic, which is devastating within itself, we learned a lot. And one of the things that even before this previous school year ended, my students and I were meeting with board members in Atlanta, asking them to do one thing that we felt like would be very helpful, which is mandating an audit of individualized health plans. These are health plans for children that have severe health conditions. So many of our cousins, many of our family members, Georgia is the #1 state of Black and brown children that have asthma and bronchitis, which we know impacts the spread and impact of COVID-19 if you get it. I know for a fact because 3 of my colleagues that are teachers, their children are still at home after 3 weeks who have asthma from being exposed to COVID-19. School leaders can only do so much with a mask mandate and getting them extra disinfectant and changing the air filter. If they don't even know that they have children in their building that have severe health conditions. And we learned this at the onset of the pandemic in a very hard way, and not as a failure of our school, but just because it was so new and we didn't know. And so having lost a student and understanding the impact that it has on the 38% of children in Atlanta that have severe health conditions, I would definitely make sure that we're mandating audits to ensure that our staff is really prepared to handle students that have severe health conditions, and also rethinking how we're doing our calendar so that we don't have overcrowded classrooms. We don't have children in small spaces where there's not enough room to social distance. And so those are 2 basic things that I would definitely do to help us circumvent the increasing numbers of COVID-19 in Atlanta public schools.
You know, Jason, you are so well-spoken. You just say it like so good and fluent. I'm like, okay, all right, he got my vote. Listen, it just makes me want to just like sign me up. So guys, again, Jason B. Allen running for seat number 9, guys. Early voting starts October the 12th. The official election day is going to be on November the 2nd. If you are living in the city of Atlanta, you are a city of Atlanta resident, you can go out there and vote. This brother is trying to make a change. Jason, I have your Twitter here at JBallen or JB Allen. Hey,
yeah.
Number 5. Is there an underscore or just JB Allen 5?
Yeah, that's it.
And then on Facebook, guys, you can find the blog Edlanta blog, Edlanta blog. Is that right?
That's right.
So any last words you want to leave for our listeners, Jason?
I would just definitely say that it is time for Atlanta to reimagine education. We should be offering better educational outcomes for our students. Students are telling me they want better opportunities. They want better workforce development experiences. They want to be prepared to be able to become their own bosses and understand the dynamics of that. But they also are gravely concerned with their lack of literacy skills and how they need to better that and improve that. So I urge us to get out, vote, know what our board members have done, what those who are seeking to run for office, such as myself for seat 9 at large, have done and what we're doing. I'll end on this. I teach my students this every day. Don't just take people by their words, but look at their actions. And I think that this school board has shown us in 8 years what they are capable of doing and what they refuse to do.
All right, guys, we heard it first, guys. We're going to take a break right here. We were sitting with Jason Allen, Jason B. Allen, guys, running for seat number 9 for Atlanta Education School Board. Make sure you go out there and vote, guys. We're going to take a break. And when we get back, we got a little bit of Ron's rundown. So keep it locked right here on Black Educated and broke.
Man, grab your phone, grab your mama phone, grab your auntie and your granny phone, and tell them to follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook.
And that's going to be at Black Educated and Broke.
We also on YouTube, y'all. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.
And follow us on Twitter at BEBpodcast_ATL.
Now, if you forget, I'm about to kick you in the ass.
Ooh, not the A.
All right.
We in the A.